Finally, the movie that I've been waiting for almost a year since its trailer dropped last year in December is here. Tenet, directed by Christopher Nolan. I'm so excited to share my thoughts with all of you as what can be best described as two of the most unique movie-going experiences. Yes, because I saw the film twice and I'll exactly tell you why you need to do so, as well to truly appreciate this misunderstood gem. I do my best to not look at reviews when a movie comes out, as it often inadvertently leads to me echoing the thoughts that I've read. But as the Tenet reviews have been pouring in since 3 months ago, one thing has become clear regarding this film. It may be Nolan's most polarizing film. Some feeling that he got caught up in his own minutiae of layers, subtext and theories, whereas others felt that it may be his most understated human story that many people just did not understand. I fall in the latter category. This is one of the biggest issues that I have had with the nature of immediate reviews of complex subjects like Tenet. A more thought out written piece becomes secondary to who puts it out first, and this actually takes away from what Christopher Nolan films are intended for, to experience. As I have to ensure that this review is a spoiler-free one, I will take note from the Chris Tuckman book and tell you the official synopsis of Tenet. Armed with only one word, Tenet, and fighting for the survival of the entire world, a protagonist journeys through a twilight world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time. I hope that makes it as clear and vague at the same time for you, because that's exactly what is best in terms of context you require before you step into the theatre. I, like most of you, have been obsessed with Christopher Nolan's filmography since the 1998 film Following, a creator that has been constantly pushing the envelope in terms of film concepts and visual depiction, but moreover has found this perfect balance of getting big production funding for his ideas, entities knowing very well the universal appeal of Nolan, no matter how complex or far-fetched his ideas are. If you thought using experimental military technology to infiltrate individual subconscious in Inception or massive tesseracts where individuals can use Morse code to transmit quantum data was complicated, I believe Christopher Nolan's Tenet is his most complicated and information-dense film. Nolan as a creator loves to keep the switch to the light away from you as long as he can. So while you flail your arms, squint your eyes, looking out for the minutest of details, he sees from a distance until you get a hold of your bearings. And when you think you have an idea of where you are, who these people are, what are their ulterior motives, he diverts you to another direction. While in his previous films like Inception, Interstellar and even Prestige, there is a moment to fully soak in the big reveal, Tenet demands you to be vigilant of the smallest details even in the last frame. The specific cutaways for the slightest seconds actually translate over to the biggest jaw-dropping moments. Therefore, as a viewer, he doesn't want you to look away. What many people may experience in this film is the same aspect people complained about with Interstellar. Like any Christopher Nolan film, it presents all of his essentials. A non-linear narrative, a soundtrack that forms the soul of the film, constantly manipulated in pitch and pace depending on the character's storyline on camera. Cameras being up close and personal to the point of view of the movement of the characters, the staple dark and sometimes cheeky humor that complements any situation, no matter how morbid it may be. Objects being characters in their own right to guide the story ahead. Tenet, as I previously said, is information dense and complex, much more I believe than Inception or Interstellar, and therefore it, like many Nolan films, has long sequences of characters walking through picturesque locations explaining to one another the world, its complexities, and several terminologies. It makes you do a double take when concepts such as inversion, turnstiles, and temporal pincer movements come up in conversations. If you thought from a visual standpoint that the corridor action sequence was complex from Inception, you will see more than just gravity-defying action, as there are so many more elements that need to be thought over in Tenet, depending on the linear or non-linear movement of each character. Elements are moving in one direction while others are moving in the opposite, and this is executed with complex chase sequences, hand-to-hand combat, and a full-fledged war-like attack. The film therefore is technically astounding, and credit has to be given to cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema. One of the best qualities about Christopher Nolan and why his films look so visually spectacular is because he insists on shooting in real locations, and if that is not possible, to recreate those impractical environments in a studio level and just enhance them with the visual effects. When a director has such a distaste for entirely digitally rendered environments, it leads to a very immersive movie the experience. If you are constantly reading about Tenet and what people's thought about this film was, you should know that many people had an issue with the blaring soundtrack that almost overcompensated in sound and sometimes made even the dialogues inaudible. As the Nolan films have increased, the volume of his soundtrack also have consistently increased. But I don't know whether this feature has been altered before the Indian release. I highly doubt that, but I did not experience a deafening soundtrack that hampered my viewing experience. I genuinely love the exhilarating music by Ludwig Göransson. It's tough to keep up with the gems generated by Hans Zimmer, but he has created a really engaging piece that complements the canvas. If you have seen any Christopher Nolan film, then you will know that no matter how ambitious the vision or the plot gets, there is always an emotional thread that keeps you glued to the storyline. Whether it be Dom's longing for Mal in Inception or the father-daughter relationship between Cooper and Murph in Interstellar, these relationships kept you hooked, emotional and wanting some form of closure. This is the biggest criticism people will communicate regarding Tenet, that the characters are emotionally distant. But I have to tell you something. Tenet is literally designed for you to watch again, because the second viewing completely changes the perspective of from what context you see the story from. I won't explore or dive deep into that, but what may initially seem abrupt or all of a sudden for you will truly sink in the second viewing. Other than the payoff being oh so beautiful in the second viewing, technically you will not be disappointed with any of the performances. John David Washington as the protagonist keeps you consciously at arm's length before you even have the slightest idea of who he is as a person. He is convincing and resolute. Dimple Kapadia in a small cameo is praiseworthy as well. Elizabeth Debicki has the most internal and emotional conflict in this film, really sinking her teeth into the role, and so does Kenneth Branagh. As I can't really tell you more about the characters, I'm just putting it out there that Robert Pattinson was my favorite. If you want an example of a man who has completely changed public perception on his capabilities solely based on the creative choices he makes, Pattinson is a clear example of that. I'm grateful for a creator like Christopher Nolan who knew the limited business Tenet would do amidst the pandemic, but still put it out there into the world for the revival of theaters and something for audiences to look forward to. The film is technically exceptional, and I can tell you with my personal experience that the first viewing was of me understanding and keeping up with this world and its eccentricities, and the second literally was me seeing the masterful weaving of several timelines from an entirely different perspective, an ability of a creator that honestly needs to be treasured and not dismissed for the sake of running and putting out your perspective first out into the world. But hey, I can't control all of that. What's happened has happened.